You're listening to Infoverity's Trust Us podcast, where you can gear up for your data management journey with bite-sized discussions on industry trends and thought leadership. On each episode, we'll feature industry experts to help you navigate your path to mastering your enterprise data. Today, we'll be talking again about trends in enterprise data management. To begin, I'd like to describe what enterprise data management is. I did this previously, but in case you did not catch the first part of this series, I'd like to reiterate. At its heart, enterprise data management is the concept of mastering, centralizing, and integrating an organization's data to make the best business use of it. This can take many forms, including mastering data about customers to ensure that messages are reaching the right people at the right time, products to ensure that customers have a holistic and trustworthy view of what they're looking for, and organizations to ensure that companies can trace the lineage of the input they receive daily. This week's episode is the second of two that will focus on trends across the industry. This portion will focus on data management modernization, specifically where to start and how you can build a blueprint suited for your business. To provide insight on today's topic, we have our guest, Andy Crago. Andy is a vice president of delivery services at Infoverity, and he's been with the firm since its inception in 2011. Welcome, Andy. So glad you could join us today.
Yep. Thanks, Joss. Happy to be here. Great intro. So I guess to give a little more background on myself, so I have been with the firm since 2011, been in the space for longer than I would like to say, but probably like 17 or 18 years now. So a lifelong consultant. I really pride myself on making sure that, yes, the technology comes to life, but we're delivering value to our customers in a business sense. We do it kind of in an ethical way, and we create kind of longevity and usage and kind of adoption across the platform. So I'm excited here to be on the podcast and talk some more data. I kind of eat it, sleep it, and drink it on a daily basis and want to chat about it more.
Well, we couldn't ask for a better guest, Andy. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to talk about this trend that's been on everyone's minds lately, which is data management modernization. Before we explore how to get started in this space, can you take a moment to operationally define what we mean by data management modernization?
Yeah, and I think CFOs would kill me for this, but it means that you are going to be spending some money here to kind of keep up with your competition in some manner. I think about modernization across obviously kind of the databases, right, that hold our information. It's the applications that you're entering or ordering your products online, but it's really the processes that overlap those, and kind of those three pieces together are elements of modernization. It's really driven by pain points or capabilities that customers are looking to capture in the market. Some of the classic kind of reasons could be things around hot fixes and upgrades, and really just the overall manpower and maintenance that it takes to maintain some of these applications on-prem. And I want to centralize, I want to harmonize, I want my very valuable staff to not be up 24/7 doing hot fixes, but really focusing on strategic aspects of the business. So those types of measures of really kind of modernizing your architecture for the future, not within the next 6 to 12 months, but really thinking like 5 to 10 years. Those are some major drivers. Some older legacy customers, right? There are organizations that have been around for 100 years, 50 years. That's a very complex problem for them. They've done a lot of M&A activity. They have very deep ingrained kind of business processes with these older systems, versus the inverse of that, maybe a new enterprise that's been around for only 5 or 10 years. They've had the opportunity to build their architecture on these cloud systems with more modern views on things, and they have less kind of lift and shift type problems. I guess just to answer your question too, Jocelyn, in terms of, I guess, how to define it, it's the databases, it's the processes and the applications, but also another reason that folks are driving towards, these cloud architectures, or kind of, these hybrid environments of the future, is really to capitalize on some of the AI, ML, highly analytical insights into the data that we're seeing in the industry, right? And that takes a data foundation, a level of kind of organization when it comes to data management best practices to really achieve kind of those futuristic or kind of shiny object insights that you'll see kind of in the market today. So allowing customers to understand that they'll never get to this cool analytical model if they don't understand how to report the news today and get their hands on the basic definition processes and kind of order of business kind of in its current state. You won't get to the analytical kind of next 10 years of your business.
Thank you, Andy. I think that that's some really great perspective and context for our listeners. So now that we understand the scope of what we're talking about, could you take us through sort of the steps to get started? What are some of those first steps that our listeners should take if they want to begin to modernize the way that they manage their data?
Yeah. So that's a great question, Taylor. And I think there's a lot of reasons of why companies want to modernize. And I think you have to understand where you are in the overall maturity kind of spectrum of things. And you need a use case and you need a piece of business value that really drives you to push down this path of investment. So kind of in my scenario earlier, maybe I have a lot of staff that's spending a lot of wasted time and energy just trying to keep the hot fixes in line and kind of the tools compatible. And I think that a better use of their time would be to build, the new analytical model of the future and allow them to drive the business, to more revenue. That would be a use case that I would kind of wrap around kind of a return on investment. So it really, where we get ourselves into trouble is thinking about this from kind of a forklift of current state into future state. You need to take the opportunity here to maybe simplify your architecture, kind of right some wrongs if things are over-engineered, and you have to find a business case and a business champion and wrap yourself around some piece of value. And it's not a big bang activity. There are maybe certain elements of your enterprise or your applications that make more sense to keep them on-prem. If it's not broken, don't fix it. And think about kind of a hybrid architecture of where things should live in the cloud and you want to simplify, but maybe some things that it just doesn't make sense based on the investment, and I'm going to keep them on-prem. And I think that's where your kind of strategic roadmap and use case driven approach comes into play. Because if you think about turning off one process and turning on another one, there's this kind of element of what we call coexistence, where your business users actually have to do their jobs, and being able to kind of do that iteratively in terms of one critical process at a time, or maybe a data domain, makes that kind of change management and adoption piece a little more simplistic.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's so important for our listeners to understand that they don't have to do everything at once, and that they can break this up into phases based on what's going to bring them incremental value along the way, and really making sure that they invest the time and effort to describe what return on investment they'll be getting for some of these purchases that they might make in the interest of doing that modernization. Can you talk a little bit about what some of those roadmaps could look like and what a successful blueprint would actually look like to act upon for an organization?
Yeah. So I think a lot of those kind of strategic roadmaps in most cases take something from a 16 to 24 month view. So we would lay out first your kind of strategic objectives as an enterprise, right? And make sure that we're able to map our vision and recommendations kind of up to what you see as strategic value for your company. So if for example, you want to grow via M&A, and you have a bunch of legacy systems that don't talk to each other, and you can't share the data, and you can't quickly onboard your customers because you don't have a common customer list, we're probably going to push your strategy around a use case to make sure that your customer data is centric. Maybe you have a microservices-based architecture. You can build once, share many times, and we enable you to achieve M&A capabilities in a certain amount of time. And we might focus on that use case more versus maybe another infrastructure-led use case where we're really trying to just replace some applications to free up some bandwidth. So, our roadmaps are aligned and customized to your industry, to the size, where you are in the maturity curve, and most importantly, what you're strategically trying to do as a business, because you do have a lot of options of where you can spend your money. And that really makes sure that we're kind of aligning, our recommendations to what makes the most sense for you. So that's the roadmap piece, Jocelyn. It's top down, it's iterative. We don't recommend big bang in most scenarios. It's really use case and domain driven. We need business stakeholders at the table. If we see an IT-led initiative, we're going to throw our hands up and kind of throw flags on the field and really push you to make sure that your business users and the folks that are running your business are at the table there, and you're really kind of creating a longer term collaboration and partnership in terms of what IT is investing in and why.
I think that's great that we're making these roadmaps and blueprints actionable. And I especially love that these are living documents that we maintain over time and make sure that those are perpetually up to date and that we constantly have that North Star of what our strategic objectives are, and how they're contributing to the business value that everyone is expecting to see as a result of these investments. Do you have any examples of a roadmap that really worked out well for a customer?
I have lots of those options, Jocelyn. No, I'm kidding. Put me on the hot seat here a little bit. So, I think we had a large kind of natural multi-brand hotel chain, right, that had a very business critical system around being able to create a better experience for their guests and those visiting their hotels. Things around understanding the loyalty of their customers, how to interact with their customers through which channel. They had purchased lots of smaller hospitality and kind of hotel industry chains, and they really wanted to be able to understand who their member was, kind of have that centric view, and be prepared to serve them over the long term. So I give that as an example because there was a strategic top-down initiative, right? We want to create a better experience for our members. We want to grow via acquisition, and we know that we have some problems today. So we're open to some therapy and some coaching to get ourselves better. So I think I share that because it was a software partner that was experts in Infoverity. It was a customer that knew they had a problem. And then we kind of had a methodology and a committed partnership to move in that direction. So I know I'm stating some of the basics there, but just around having a true business stakeholder, a true problem that we all agree that we want to solve, and a realistic methodology. Infoverity had the methodology, but also the automation when it came to some of the software in terms of being able to say, okay, we don't want you to pay for the things that we already know how to do. Let's go ahead and move your data model over to the cloud. Let's move your match rules. Some of your basic integrations and quality measures were things that we were able to automate. And that was part of our puzzle and approach there too. So that's just an example, of kind of a multi-phased strategic project that we had, in the modernization space.
The right people supporting it at the right time, the right tools in place, the right size of objectives is what I'm hearing.
With some real urgency, right? And
Mm-hmm.
a clear vision of why you wanted to invest in the effort to modernize. I mean, if you're just saying, I want to get to the cloud because everyone's in the cloud and you're going to take that to your CFO or your CEO, that just doesn't work. I mean, this has to have some real business kind of teeth and stickiness. And I think, in that example, it really did. And that's what got the funding over the finish line, because I think a lot of the engineers and technical folks, we all want to move to these great new platforms in the cloud. I just think the rubber hits the road when it comes to reality and spending and really what the business needs. And I think that's where the ROI and business case really comes into play.
Thanks, Andy. I think that that's a really excellent example. So now that we've kind of gone through the different elements of modernization and the approach there, how can Infoverity help support their customers as they begin to navigate that modernization journey?
Yeah, I think with so many options on the table and maybe not a clear path to get there, I think Infoverity can kind of be your sounding board and advisor to help you uncover that use case, to give you clarity about maybe what's going on in the market compared to your competitors. And, if you take something like AI, I think you could leverage our opinion about what is the actual realistic adoption of those types of capabilities in the market, and how important are they to me within my contextual situation. That's where Infoverity is going to start. We're going to make sure that you're making the decision for the right reasons. We're going to ask industry-based questions. We're going to bring insights about what we're seeing, and ultimately kind of give you an iterative plan that's kind of achievable based on bite-sized chunks.
And I think it's great that there's so many different ways that we can help our listeners, our clients with their journey, because it can be overwhelming. There's an infinite number of options, and I believe that us acting as thought leaders can really add some value for our clients. Well, Andy, we're so happy that you were able to join us today. If I could do a quick summary of everything that I think that I've heard. The goal of data management modernization is to stop spending money on maintenance and really to focus on strategic advancements to get your business on new platforms and using new tools.
Yeah.
One of the first steps in this journey is to understand where you are and the maturity of your business, because you need to define the business case in order that you're able to make the investment that you need in those new platforms, in those new tools, in enabling those new processes. To make that actionable, you can really draw up a roadmap for where things live, how processes will work in the future, and break things down so that you can drive incremental value throughout your entire journey of data modernization, of enterprise data management, really. One of the most important things is to just outline your strategic objectives as an enterprise and map your visions and recommendations to those actionable steps over time. This should be top down, and it really should be iterative. That document should be living, and it should be revisited on a regular basis. And it really can't stem from just wanting to move to the cloud per se. It really needs to be rooted in, again, what those business objectives are. And of course, through all of this journey, Infoverity can support as an advisor and a thought leader, figuring out different ways that you can cleverly incorporate some of the new technology or some of the buzzwords that you're hearing about in a way that will demonstrate to your organization the value that it expects to achieve from its investment of both time and money. Would you say that that's a pretty accurate summary?
And that was a great summary, Justin. I think a little bit of, correction on my side is I've been talking a lot about the infrastructure investment in terms of a challenge, right? The hot fix example. But I think to take it up a level, you need to pick the challenge that fits you and the business reason and the business problem. So maybe it is infrastructure things, but maybe it's also the inability to move quickly, right? You have all these pockets of data. You've bought a new business and you can't get those customers searchable on your website so folks can buy products. That's a problem to move quickly. Maybe there's a lack of trust in the data. You've promised a lot of things to your business users. They're just sick of using the systems. They hate the adoption, hate the interface. Things are over-engineered. That's a challenge, right? Where you could modernize here, simplify the architecture, get better change management, and get more adoption from your users. It could be things around the lack of reusability, right? You have a lot of quality rules or cleansing rules that are leveraged in pockets of your business, and every time you need to apply that certain parsing or logic across your customer base, you have to build it again. So those are just some examples. I think it really comes down to a challenge that kind of is important enough for you to invest the time, money, and effort to modernize. So just clarifying that, Jocelyn, but I think you hit on all the big components. We need the business backing. We need kind of the partnership in terms of the why we want to do it. And obviously we need kind of the change management, the process, and the adoption, and understand, this is a journey and it's not something that we do overnight, and we need to kind of map it into the overall strategic view of our business. So that's it for me. I appreciate the time. This has been kind of a great data chat here, and I'm sure you guys have a lot of good guests kind of on your channel here, but thanks for having me.
Well, we really appreciate your insights and your time, Andy. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you, Andy.
For more than a decade, Infoverity has been established as an industry-leading consultancy specializing in solving enterprise data management business problems with best-in-class technical solutions. Our firm has consultants located around the globe with headquarters in Columbus, Ohio and Valencia, Spain. If you'd like to learn more about how we can help you, please visit our website at infoverity.com. We've also included additional contact information in the show notes.